Hello everyone, welcome you to another session of teaching ICSE biology for standard 10. In this session we will discuss photosynthesis, which is included in plant physiology unit 2 of your course book. As we all know, photosynthesis is the most important life process. Life process means process taking place in living things to keep them alive. This is the life process which provide food not only to the plant itself but also to all animal life including humans. It also provides the life supporting oxygen gas to the atmosphere, and we all take that oxygen for breathing from the atmosphere. They are the self food producers. They can make food in their own body and they use that food, and they also provide that food to all other animals. We can define photosynthesis as photosynthesis is the process by which living plant cells containing chlorophyll produce food substances, that is glucose, and later it is converted into starch from carbon dioxide and water by using light energy. And in this process, plants release oxygen as a byproduct. So it is an important activity in all green plants which are able to synthesize food from carbon dioxide and water in the presence of chlorophyll and light energy. Importance of photosynthesis. As I told you before, photosynthesis has two importances, that is, it provides food for all and it provides oxygen to breathe in. Photosynthesis is the only source of energy and food for all living things, directly for plants or indirectly for animals and humans. Plants make food by photosynthesis. They use their food, then herbivores take that food from plants, then carnivores take food from herbivores. So directly or indirectly, all living things on earth get food from plants, and that is possible by the process of photosynthesis. Oxygen supports life on this earth, and photosynthesis is the only biological process which releases oxygen into the atmosphere as a product. The most important substance required for photosynthesis is chlorophyll, because it has the ability to absorb light. It is a green color pigment that is found in plants. It is contained in microscopic cell organelles called chloroplast. Chloroplasts are found in leaf cells. Since chlorophyll is a green color pigment, the leaves look green due to high concentration of chlorophyll and chloroplast in them. Chlorophyll is a highly complex substance composed of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen and magnesium. Magnesium is the mineral component of chlorophyll. There may be more than 5 million chloroplasts per square millimeter of leaf surface. And this chlorophyll is of 9 types. There are 9 types of chlorophyll. Out of this, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, they are most abundant. Chlorophyll is very highly sensitive to light. Too much light may destroy chlorophyll. But the formation of chlorophyll itself depends on the exposure of the plant to light. The chlorophyll is produced in presence of light and chlorophyll is destroyed with bright light or more light. The grass growing in the shed under a stone turns yellowish due to non-formation of chlorophyll because it is not exposed to light. And due to disintegration of old chlorophyll also may be one reason for yellowish color of the plant parts. Chloroplasts are very small, tiny or minute oval bodies bounded by a double layered membrane. It consists of piles of thylakoids of flattened sac-like structure. And this pile or stack of thylakoids is known as granum. And you can see in the picture there is a number of grana present inside the chloroplast. Each pile of thylakoid is called granum and plural is grana. And these grana are connected by interconnecting bars known as freight. Apart from grana, you can see a light color ground substance or matrix filled inside the chloroplast. It's a fluid substance. It is colorless. It has no color and it is called stroma. And photosynthesis takes place in both grana and stoma. Photosynthesis has two phases, light phase and dark phase. The first phase is light phase and the second phase or last phase is dark phase. The light phase takes place in grana or granum and the dark phase takes place in stroma. And for photosynthesis, plant requires carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is taken into the plant body through a number of small openings present on the lower surface of a leaf normally, which are called stomatas. The main function of stomata is to let in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into the leaf for photosynthesis. In the picture you can see a stomatal apparatus or stomata. At the center you see a pore that is called stoma or stomatal pore, which is surrounded by two bean sheet shaped cells called guard cells. Inside the guard cells, nucleus is there, vacuoles are there and a number of chloroplasts are there. And these chloroplasts do photosynthesis. So, photosynthesis takes place in guard cells. The inner wall of the guard cell is thicker and curved and the outer wall is thinner and bulged out. And because of this bean sheet shape, the stomatal pore is formed. When the guard cells are in proper shape, the two inner curved walls form the stomatal pore. This stomata is surrounded by epidermal cells. The lower surface and upper surface of leaf are formed of epidermal cells, a single layered epidermal cells. And at regular interval in these epidermal cells, the stomata are present, and through these stomatas carbon dioxide enters into the leaf for photosynthesis. The stomatal pores present on the lower surface of the leaf, they are not always open. They get closed and they get open. And this regulation of stomatal opening for allowing carbon dioxide to enter in are based on two theories. One is potassium ion concentration theory, which is a recently developed theory, and the other one is sugar concentration theory, which is old theory. According to the potassium ion concentration theory, the stomatal opening and closing depend on the generation of potassium ion gradient. Gradient means the difference in solute concentration. Guard cells contain cell sap and epidermal cell adjacent to guard cell contains cell sap. So two solutions are there and solutions contain solute. So this solute concentration is different in guard cells and epidermal cells, and this concentration gradient contributes to potassium ion concentration theory. During daytime, the chloroplast in the guard cells photosynthesize, which leads to the production of ATP. Throughout the day, they get light and they continue doing photosynthesis. And this food, glucose, which is prepared during photosynthesis, that is utilized in respiration process for production of ATP. So, photosynthesis and respiration go on simultaneously. In photosynthesis, food is produced, and in respiration, food is broken down to produce ATP. And this ATP energy is used to pump or pull potassium ions from the adjacent epidermal cells into guard cells. So, forcibly potassium ions are taken by using ATP energy of guard cells from the epidermal cells into the guard cells. So, potassium concentration increases in the guard cells. So, the cells are present in the guard cells become hypertonic solution. So, more water from the adjacent epidermal cells is drawn into the guard cells and the guard cells become more turgid. When they become more turgid, they come to their proper shape. For example, when a tire is deflated, air escapes out from the tire, it loses its shape, but when it is filled with air, then it is inflated, then it comes to the proper shape and used in running vehicles. Same way, when guard cells have less water, they lose their turgidity and they lose their shape also. So the inner curved walls become straight. So stomatal pore is closed. But when guard cells have enough water, they gain enough water, they become turgid, they come to their proper shape and the inner curved walls form the stomatal pore. So stomata is open at that time. Okay, this way stomata opens and closes. During daytime, because photosynthesis takes place, food is prepared, and during respiration food is broken down to produce ATP. That ATP energy is used to forcibly pull sodium ions which are present in epidermal cells, adjacent epidermal cells, into the guard cells. Okay. When more solute enters into the guard cells become hypertonic in nature, and when it becomes hypertonic, in comparison to the guard cell, the cell sap of epidermal cell is hypotonic, having more water. So endosmosis into the guard cells takes place and they gain more water. When they gain more water, they are packed with water molecules, then they come to their proper shape and stomata is open or stomatal pore is formed. Okay, but just opposite happens at night. The potassium ions leak out from the guard cells to epidermal cell, because conduction of minerals takes place, conduction of food takes place in solution form, at night, because no photosynthesis takes place at that time. When photosynthesis takes place during the daytime, no conduction of food and minerals takes place from guard cells. And at night, when the conduction of this food and minerals takes place in solution form, then the potassium ions leak out from the guard cells. So guard cells become hypotonic in nature in comparison to epidermal cells. The exosmosis takes place from guard cells to epidermal cells. So they lose water, they lose their turgidity, and ultimately they lose their shape. Then the inner walls become straight and the stomata is closed. This is how the stomatal regulation of stomatal opening takes place according to potassium ion concentration theory. According to the old sugar concentration theory, during daytime the guard cells begin photosynthesis and sugar or glucose is produced during the process. When sugar concentration increases in the cell sap of guard cells, the cell sap becomes hypotonic because sugar is a solute, and in the epidermal cells sugar concentration is less because epidermal cells don't have chloroplast, they cannot prepare food. They depend on other leaf cells and guard cells for food. So food is conducted from guard cells to epidermal cells, that is at night, but during daytime epidermal cells don't have much glucose or sugar. So cell sap in epidermal cell is hypotonic and cell sap in guard cells become hypertonic because due to production of sugar. So this provides a condition for endosmosis from epidermal cell to guard cells. On getting more water into the guard cells become turgid in nature. When they become turgid in condition, the inner walls, curved walls, come to their proper shape and the guard cells come to their proper shape. Inner curved walls form the stomatal pore. So during daytime the stomatas are open, but at night photosynthesis does not take place and the sugar that is produced during daytime, that is conducted into epidermal cells. When sugar goes to epidermal cells from guard cells, epidermal cells become hypertonic in nature and guard cells become hypotonic. Cell sap in guard cell is hypotonic and cell sap in epidermal cell is hypertonic. So this provides a condition for exosmosis from guard cells to epidermal cells. So epidermal cells lose water. Water is conducted from guard cells to epidermal cells. On losing water, the guard cells lose their turgidity and they lose their shape also. When guard cells lose their shape, they become straight. Then inner walls become straight, and which results in closing of stomatal pore. This is how the regulation of stomatal opening and closing takes place according to sugar concentration theory. Here you see the cross section of a leaf, and we know that photosynthesis takes place in the leaves. The upper surface of the leaf is upper epidermis and lower surface of the leaf is lower epidermis. Upper epidermis is also called adaxial epidermis, lower epidermis is called abaxial epidermis. On upper epidermal layer, there is a layer of cuticle present, which is formed of a waxy fluid that is produced from epidermal cells. And in lower epidermis you can see stomatal pore or stoma. Stomatal pores are present normally on lower epidermis. And in between this upper epidermis and lower epidermis, the cells are called mesophyll cells, which have very high concentration of chloroplast. These mesophyll cells are divided into two types, that is palisade mesophyll cells and spongy mesophyll cells. Adjacent to upper epidermis, the mesophyll cells are called palisade mesophyll cells, which don't have intercellular space. And adjacent to lower epidermis, the mesophyll cells have large intercellular space. They are called spongy mesophyll cells. And you can see also a vascular bundle that consists of xylem and phloem, which are conducting tissues. Through xylem, water enters into the leaves. Then it is supplied to the mesophyll cells. So water is one of the reactant or raw material that is required for photosynthesis, and water comes to the leaf through xylem tissues. Then from xylem tissues it is supplied to all connecting mesophyll cells. And when food is prepared, phloem takes food to all other parts of the plant body. And in lower epidermis you see stoma or stomatal pore, and through this stomatal pore carbon dioxide from the atmosphere enters into the leaf cells. And in these mesophyll cells chloroplast are present. Dotted structures you see in the inside the mesophyll cells, dots you can see, these dots represent chloroplast, and in this chloroplast photosynthesis takes place on getting water through the xylem tissues and on getting carbon dioxide through stoma from the atmosphere. So carbon dioxide and water are two reactants which chemically react in presence of light, and chlorophyll is the pigment that absorbs light and make light possible, this chemical reaction of photosynthesis. And in this chemical reaction the products are glucose, oxygen and water. So overall reaction of photosynthesis is 6CO2 plus 12 H2O in presence of light and chlorophyll produce or yield glucose, oxygen and water. Glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen and 6 molecules of water. It's a balanced chemical reaction of photosynthesis or balanced chemical equation of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes place in two phases in the chloroplast, that is light phase and dark phase. Light phase takes place in grana because grana consists of thylakoids, that flattened sac-like structure which we discussed in structure of chloroplast, and these flattened sac-like structures known as thylakoids on their wall contain chlorophyll, and light phase takes place in this thylakoids, and dark phase takes place in the stoma or ground substance, which is a colorless matrix inside the chloroplast. First phase is light phase. Light reactions takes place in the thylakoids of the chloroplast since they contain chlorophyll on their walls. In this phase, light plays the key role. A series of chemical reactions occur in quick succession, and that is initiated by light. Therefore, this phase is called photochemical phase. And this light reaction takes place in chlorophyll containing thylakoids of the chloroplast. It has two steps. Step 1 is activation of chlorophyll. When chlorophyll is exposed to sunlight, when leaves are exposed to sunlight, chlorophyll absorbs photons. Photon is the light, unit of light energy that is absorbed by chlorophyll. So on exposure to light, chlorophyll absorbs light energy in the form of photons. Then on observing light energy, chlorophyll is activated. Then step 2 takes place, that is splitting of water molecules. This reaction also is known as photolysis, which means splitting by light. You might have known about electrolysis in what when we pass current in water, the water molecule breaks down to hydrogen and oxygen ions. Same way, in presence of light, when water molecule breaks, it is called photolysis. The reaction takes place in this way. Hydrogen water molecule breaks into hydrogen ions, electrons and molecular oxygen. This reaction is known as photolysis, which means splitting by light. Photo means light, lysis means breaking. Photolysis occurs in the grana of a chloroplast, and we can define photolysis as the splitting of water molecule into hydrogen ions and oxygen in presence of light. And in light phase also some more incidents takes place, that is hydrogen ions are picked up, hydrogen ions which are produced during photolysis, they are picked up by a compound NADP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, which is present in leaf cells, to form NADPH using electrons. Then oxygen is given out as molecular oxygen, and the electrons are also used in converting ADP, adenosine diphosphate, into ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. ATP is used in the next phase, that is the dark phase. So ADP is the stored form of energy, and on addition of one phosphate, inorganic phosphate group to ADP, it is converted into ATP, and this ATP and NADPH both are utilized for dark phase. Dark phase is called so because it does not require light energy, no light is required, and it occurs simultaneously with the light reactions. Just immediately after the light phase, the dark phase takes place. The time gap between the light phase and dark phase may be less than 1000 of a second. So it is immediately followed by light reaction. It takes place during daytime. Dark phase does not take place at night. It takes place immediately after light reaction. In dark reaction, carbon dioxide reacts with hydrogen, that is from NADPH. So NADPH breaks and hydrogen is picked up by carbon dioxide to form glucose, and this takes place in dark phase. So the products formed in dark phase are glucose and water molecules. Okay. One more thing I would like to mention which takes place in light phase is phosphorylation or photophosphorylation. This is conversion of ADP to ATP by addition of one phosphate group. That is phosphorylation, but since it takes place in presence of photons, light energy, it is known as photophosphorylation. Okay, and this for this dark reaction to take place, or in the dark phase, the production of glucose takes place in presence of an enzymatic compound that is called RUBP or ribulose biphosphate. Okay, after glucose is produced, again ATP is converted back to ADP, and NADPH after losing hydrogen again turn back to NADP and remain in the leaf cells, and again can be utilized for next lot of photosynthesis. When glucose is produced, glucose is a soluble substance. It get dissolved in water. So for storing purpose, glucose molecules link to each other, forming a complex compound that is called starch. Several molecules of glucose link together to produce one molecule of starch, and this process of formation of starch from glucose molecule is called polymerization. This starch is stored in the plant body. If plant has to use food, then plant uses it in the form of glucose, and the food when stored, it is stored either in the form of sucrose, that is a double sugar or disaccharide, or it may be stored in the form of starch. Okay, this is all we discuss. About light reaction and dark reaction, you can see here a schematic diagram of light reaction and dark reaction. Sunlight is falling on the chloroplast present in the leaves, in the leaf cells, in the mesophyll cells of the leaves, and they are supplied with water through the xylem, and light reaction takes place in which, in presence of light energy in the form of photons, the hydrogen molecule breaks to release hydrogen ions, electrons and molecular oxygen which is going out, and then NADP, which is a phosphate compound present in the leaf cells, picks up hydrogen and using electrons turns into NADPH, and NADPH is used in dark reaction. Dark reaction is also called Calvin cycle because it was first stated by a scientist named Calvin. According to his name, it is named as Calvin cycle. Then ATP energy is produced from ADP by addition of one inorganic phosphate group, and this, with the help of these two, from carbon dioxide glucose is produced, and this is the whole process of photosynthesis. In part 2 of photosynthesis, we will discuss about different factors affecting the process of photosynthesis and adaptations by the plants to facilitate photosynthesis and experiments of photosynthesis. But before ending this session, we will discuss a differential account of light reaction and dark reaction. Light reaction takes place in presence of light. It is called photochemical phase. But dark reaction takes place in presence or absence of sunlight, but it doesn't require or utilize sunlight. It may take place in presence of sunlight, but it does not utilize sunlight. So it is called a biochemical phase, a chemical reaction that takes place in living organisms, that is called biochemical. The chemical process that takes place in presence of light, that is called photochemical phase. Light reaction takes place in the grana of the chloroplast, but dark reaction takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. In light reaction, NADP, which is present in the leaf cells, picks up hydrogen ions from photolysis, after photolysis process from splitting of water molecule to form NADPH, and the hydrogen of NADPH combines with carbon dioxide to form glucose. So NADPH breaks and gives carbon dioxide, gives hydrogen to carbon dioxide to form glucose. The end products are ATP, NADPH and molecular oxygen in light phase. In dark phase, ATP and NADPH help in the formation of glucose. Glucose is the end product. With that, water molecules are also produced. The water molecules split into hydrogen and oxygen in light reaction, and in dark reaction carbon dioxide is utilized to produce glucose. In light reaction photolysis occurs, which takes place in the presence of light, but in dark reaction photolysis doesn't occur. It does not require light. With this we end this session. Thank you.